All right, now, how to work with an overlay layer. So I have this gray layer behind my creature layer, and that allows me to dodge and burn shadows. So far I've burned a shadow, burn it a little bit more at even a lower exposure here, because shadows are darkest right where the creature is making contact, right? But I also have to remember that the lighting of my setting isn't really harsh, downward light. It's this very diffused light. So the edges of my shadows are not going to be sharp at all. They're going to be really, really softly diffused. Okay? And so I like to do it this way so that my shadow, first of all, makes sense. That it makes sense for just my creature on its own. Okay? But then I can also dodge on this overlay layer. So what if, this environment looks a little bit chilly, it's kind of morning hours. The sun isn't high in the sky. So I can dodge that overlay layer too. And this time I'm going to do it to make some breath coming from my creature. His mouth is open anyway. That's a little heavy-handed, but you can see the effect that will have when I turn that to overlay mode. See the breath coming out. And it kind of brightens everything. But I think that was too sharp, so I'm going to make it really soft. So a very low exposure, much bigger brush, and just, in general, a little bit of breath coming through. But that might need to come in front of my character as well. So you can dodge and burn on this, but this is for the background. Okay, now I switch that to overlay, that gray layer. So that shadow underneath is there. And now I'm going to select both of those, the overlay and my character layer, and move it back down into my scene. There it is. Okay, and now I need to start thinking about other aspects, the edges, the overlaps. Right now it looks like he's stepping over these twigs in the foreground. That's not going to work. So what do I need to do? I need to select the layer from the background where those twigs are, which can be tricky because we have all these overlay layers now too, so the auto select tool isn't always going to work. I just have to find that ground layer. There it is. And now I'm going to select it and lasso everything from it that overlaps my character. And then make a duplicate of it and move that up above my character, like so. All right? Now, unfortunately, it'd be easier if it was just a log or something, and I could bring in a log if I want to make my life easier. But to do it, I now need to select around this, just like we learned how to select around the flowers for the antlers and everything else. So now I'm going to selectively cut out of this. But it's a little bit easier because we already have that same layer showing from the background, right? And it's also easier because this is a pool of water. And my creature is not able to walk on water. So I'm going to use those extra pixels of overlap, and I'm going to erase with a low opacity after selecting just the water. And check this out. I'll erase with a very low opacity, large brush, kind of a ghosting effect. And I'll be able to kind of sink my character's foot in the water a little bit. And I can do that in the other areas too. So now with my soft eraser, just take those down a little bit. More in some areas than others. And just soften that transition. So, where is it actually hitting the water? How much? There we go. Okay, so that did a lot for me. Let me see, there's some other weirdness here in front of my creature. So you just want to look at all those edges where your creature hits the ground. Yeah, so over the top of my creature now, you see that it's covering up a little too much. And so what I'm going to do, let's see, it's this layer. Instead of erasing away from this layer, what I'm going to do is select my character layer, use the magic wand to select all the space around it, and then I'm just going to, well, make a duplicate of that. So basically make a duplicate of my character. Move it above that layer, and then delete that duplicate of my character. Except for where I need it to overlap correctly with this background. So now we are actually making some changes. All right, so now I can safely, with 100% eraser, delete away some of these overlapping areas of my character. It's not that I'm deleting away from my character layer, I'm deleting away from a copy of my character layer. My character layer is still there fully. So that works well. But this leg and that back end, that should be a little bit more clear. Let me see. And what I like about making duplicates is it also duplicates the name of the layer. So since I brought my creature in, I'm going to turn off the auto select because it's causing me some grief. So when it brought in my smart layer and it took the name, then I can see the different copies I make of my creature layer too. It's a good time to save, but instead of just save, because I don't want to overwrite my assignment 1, I'm going to say save as and make this assignment 3. And I call these creaturescapes. Especially because my Photoshop is slowing down a bit now and glitching a bit. It's a good time to save. Assignment 3, Creaturescape. And I'm going to save it to the desktop as a Photoshop file. Okay, so we brought in a clean plate for our creature. We moved it behind the different levels of atmosphere. We used an overlay layer behind it to put in a shadow, even though it's pretty subtle right now. And now I am duplicating parts of my creature to move above certain elements to erase away from. so that I can control how it gets revealed. All right, so let's continue with that. And if you need to, you can even just take the opacity down so you can see where the overlaps happen that are necessary. And right now I'm erasing at 100%. But I can change that to soften the erasing. To a different opacity. Like so. So that gives me back my back leg. Okay. So now, how do I get those feet? That one's beginning to look like it's under the water. How do I do that to the rest of the feet? Well, I just need to use my references wisely. So what I'm going to do is copy a bunch of this water from this layer behind and move that in front. So I'm stealing from myself. That's why compositing is such an important skill. This is always how we can get what we need. So I'm going to take a big swatch of water here, duplicate it, move it above everything. Move it down over the feet, treat it like a shape, stretch it, warp it if I need to. I'll show you another way like we used with our texture fill. It's like I'm just stealing my own texture. To get rid of that hard edge, I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Soften out those edges. Right. Now let me move it down underneath that foreground layer. There it is. And now with a very low opacity eraser, I can help sink those feet in a little bit into the murky water. It's pretty still water too. Okay, now if I feel like I need a little bit of an edge there, I can steal from this reference. Where the light's hitting the water, that gives me a little bit of a glowing edge. Let's see. Like right there. That little break. So I can also steal these elements in very subtle ways and manipulate them. Let's move it up a few more layers. Let's flip it vertically. Let's move it around so it feels like, in a very still way, my creature is breaking the surface of the water. And I can play with its levels, brighten its midtones, brighten its highlights, just troubling the water a little bit. I can blur its edges. It's too much. Why I like Gaussian blur is you can control how much. So I want a more subtle blurring here because then I'll use my eraser and cut away from it.